Welcome to Forex Shorts Podcasts. We always aim for these conversations to be super positive, add some real value, and today's deep dive is no exception.
Yeah, definitely. We are diving deep into the world of RashaBanks.
Right. Magic Keys, Dominion Markets, SRC. He's got this whole thing going on.
Oh, he does. Big time.
Yeah.
We're going off a recent interview he did. Really interesting stuff.
It is. So, Words of Wisdom, if you're on YouTube, check out that channel. They did a really, really cool interview.
Yeah, extracting these key nuggets of knowledge.
Yeah. Give everybody the shortcut.
The shortcut, the cheat sheet, all that good stuff. And maybe along the way, we'll uncover some surprising facts about Raja, about his mindset, how he built his businesses, all that.
I think we will. So, I was reading through this. It's really cool how he got into trading, right? It wasn't like he set out from day one, I'm going to be a trader. It kind of happened,
Almost by accident, sounds like.
Yeah. February 2016, he stumbles upon this Instagram account, Uncle Ted, right?
Right.
Uncle Ted's posting all this daily profits, withdrawals, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, showing off the, the spoils of trading, so to speak, the lifestyle, all that good stuff.
The good life. And at the time, Raja was doing pretty well, right? He was in sales. He was making, good money. But I guess seeing that kind of sparked something, that classic thing, make more, work less, right?
Yeah, who wouldn't be enticed by that, right? The efficiency, the idea of making your time work harder for you, it's super appealing.
It is. So what does he do? He opens an account with IC Markets.
Jumps right in, head first.
Head first, ready to make it rain.
Ready to follow in Uncle Ted's footsteps, I guess.
Exactly, except he loses like $200, almost immediately.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a quick lesson. Bit of an expensive one, too.
It is. And I think that's such a great takeaway for anyone who's thinking about getting into trading, right? Just because you see somebody else making profits doesn't mean you automatically know how to do it yourself.
Totally. It's that classic mistake, right? Confusing observation with knowledge. You got to put in the time to learn, to understand how the market works before you even think about putting serious money in.
And to his credit, that's exactly what Raja did. He realized, okay, I need to actually learn this. So he invests in a mentorship program with Uncle Ted.
Smart move.
And it's kind of funny, he specifically mentions that they lived relatively close to each other. That was a big selling point for him.
Oh, interesting. I wonder why that was so important to him.
I know, right? Maybe it's about that extra level of accountability or just knowing there's someone nearby who can guide you.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like having a safety net, someone you can actually connect with, not just some anonymous person online.
Right. And I think that feeds into this whole mindset that Raja had even before trading came into the picture. He always wanted something more, He mentions family and friends who were really successful financially, and that definitely played a role in shaping his ambition.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seeing people around you achieving a certain level of success, it can really inspire you, make you believe that it's possible for you too. It's like, if they can do it, why not me?
Right. And he talks about working on the oil rigs, right? Good money, but so much time and effort involved.
Grueling work, yeah.
Yeah, grueling long hours. And he's seeing his friends in sales making, significantly more, working less. I think that really kind of solidified his view on efficient wealth creation. How can I get the biggest return for my time invested?
Totally. It's like a direct comparison, right? Time versus money. Which one are you willing to sacrifice? And he seems to be someone who values his time highly.
Very much so. And it wasn't just his own observations either. He mentions his family, his dad, his father-in-law. They were really encouraging him to get into business. They saw the potential, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That kind of support from your family can be huge, especially when you're considering something a little unconventional, a little risky. It's that vote of confidence, that belief in you that can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And, another part of his story that really stood out to me is his experience as an immigrant. He moved to Canada from Pakistan when he was 25.
Wow, that's a big change, especially at that age.
Huge change. He talks about the cultural differences, how there was this feeling of dependence in Pakistan, and then coming to Canada, there's this sense of independence. It really shaped him.
It makes sense. I mean, starting over in a new country, a new culture, that's got to change you, right? You have to adapt. You have to be more independent.
Right. And he talks about his dad making this huge decision, to move the whole family to Canada. A big risk.
Yeah, a huge leap of faith.
And Raja realizes now, looking back, how much of an impact that had on him, on his whole family.
It's funny how we sometimes only truly appreciate the sacrifices our parents made for us, later in life when we have our own experiences to compare them to.
Absolutely. And being an immigrant, he felt this pressure to succeed, to outperform everyone who was already established in Canada, like he had something to prove.
That's a common feeling for immigrants, I think, this drive to excel, to show their worth, and it can be a powerful motivator.
Definitely. And he admits he didn't really understand the risk his dad took until he started facing his own challenges working on those oil rigs. Like going through hardship himself gave him a whole new perspective.
Yeah, you can talk about risk all you want, but until you actually experience it, until you face those tough choices, it's hard to truly grasp it, you know?
Exactly. And then, he gets married, starts a family, and suddenly everything shifts, right?
Oh yeah, responsibilities change, priorities shift.
Huge shift. He says it's all about providing for his wife, his kids, no room for error anymore.
Makes sense. It's like that next level of motivation, right? You're not just doing it for yourself anymore. You've got people who depend on you.
Exactly. Now, before we get into his trading journey, we've got to talk about sales. He really emphasizes how much he learned from his time in sales, how those skills were so valuable, regardless of what he ended up doing.
Oh yeah. Sales is like the ultimate training ground. It teaches you how to communicate, how to persuade, how to handle rejection, how to understand people.
All the essentials. But he didn't have an easy start. He spent like 2 months in door-to-door sales, making zero income.
Oof, that's rough. Door-to-door is tough as it is.
And he even mentions struggling with confidence and some speech issues he had to overcome.
That's got to be tough on your ego, on your self-belief, especially when you're putting yourself out there facing rejection day after day.
Definitely. His family even suggested he go back to factory work, something stable.
They were worried.
Yeah, I can see why they'd be worried. They just want what's best for him, right? They want him to be secure. Exactly. But then he makes his first sale.
Finally.
Yeah, and it was a big one.
Yeah.
Like $1,400 commission.
Wow. That's a game changer.
It was. He tells this really vivid story about sitting at a bus stop bench, crying because he finally did it. And it was in that moment, he says, that he understood sales is about the odds, the probabilities. You got to keep going.
Powerful moment, right? That emotional release after all that struggle and the realization that sales is a numbers game. You just got to keep putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And from that point on, he says he started scaling rapidly, making good money, really figuring things out.
Momentum. Once you get that first taste of success, it's like everything starts falling into place.
Totally. And, that leads into a point he makes about family support or the lack of it when you're pursuing something like trading, something non-traditional.
Yeah. He says families often don't get it, and it's not out of malice, it's out of concern, right? They just want the best for you, but they might not understand this whole trading thing.
Right. And he even talks about his own experience, not graduating university, choosing to work on the oil rigs, and the tough conversation he had with his dad, like that clash of expectations versus personal aspirations.
Yeah, those conversations can be tough, but sometimes you got to follow your own path, even if it's not what everyone else expects.
Absolutely. Now, he brings up this really interesting point about privacy and focus. Like, don't be so quick to seek validation from everyone, especially when you're starting out.
Interesting. What does he mean by that?
He says, especially with trading, don't go around telling everybody what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. I can see why. Not everyone's going to get it, and their opinions, especially if they're negative, can really mess with your head, especially when you're still learning.
Exactly. And it's not just about other people's opinions. He says it's about protecting your focus.
Oh, I get it. It's
Yeah.
like if you're constantly talking about it, you're not actually doing it right. You're not putting in the work to get better.
Exactly. And he has this really practical suggestion. He says, structure your hobbies, your trading time. So it's not like you're consumed by it 24/7. Show your loved ones that you have a balance.
Smart. Because if they see you obsessed, that's when they start to worry, right?
Exactly. And he even touches on this whole thing about oversharing on social media. That constant need to document everything. And he contrasts that with actually focusing on acquiring the skill, on getting better.
Yeah, it's like, what's the goal? Are you trying to impress people online, or are you actually trying to achieve something real?
Right. So let's get back to his trading journey. He's following Uncle Ted, having some wins, some losses, figuring things out. But then he drops a bomb.
A bomb? What happened?
He lost a huge chunk of his savings. Like we're talking $100,000 to $203,000 in the first 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. A major setback. And I think this is where a lot of people would have just given up. But Raja, he's different.
What did he do?
He took a step back. He analyzed what Uncle Ted was doing. And he noticed something really important.
What was it?
Uncle Ted was super focused. He'd take 1 or 2 trades in the morning, and then that's it. He'd walk away.
Interesting. Less is more, maybe.
Right. And Raja, he decides to try that. He limits himself to just 1 or 2 trades a day. And guess what?
But did it work?
Within 2 months, his results improved dramatically.
Wow. That's a pretty quick turnaround.
It is. And he even encourages listeners to try it out, limit themselves for a couple of months and see what happens.
Yeah, it's a simple experiment, right? But it could have a huge impact.
Definitely. Now, another thing he talks about is the importance of learning from successful people.
Always a good idea.
And he says, it doesn't matter if those people are younger than you. You can learn from anyone.
Yeah, age is just a number. If someone's crushing it, you can learn from them, regardless of how old they are.
Exactly. And he makes this really interesting point. He says, you have to watch out for this negative mindset where you see someone successful and you automatically think they got there through some shady means.
Yeah, it's easy to be cynical, but that's not helpful, right?
It's not. He says you have to switch to a growth mindset. Like, okay, how did they do it? What can I learn from them?
It's about looking for that blueprint, those patterns, those strategies that you can apply to your own life.
Exactly. And, one of the big mistakes he talks about is this idea of chasing losses.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic trap. You lose money, you panic, you try to make it back quickly, and you end up losing even more.
It's a vicious cycle. And he says you have to shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on getting your money back, focus on finding that next winning trade.
Okay, so it's about switching your focus from the past to the future.
Exactly. He compares it to sales. Don't dwell on the rejections. Move on to the next potential customer.
Makes sense. It's all about maintaining that forward momentum, staying positive, and focusing on what you can control.
Absolutely. And he says door-to-door sales, that was a real confidence builder for him.
Oh, I bet. That's a tough gig. It forces you to be resilient, to handle all those rejections.
For sure. He even talks about selling across Canada, different regions, different people, different reactions. He had to adapt.
Wow. That's a lot of experience.
Yeah. And at school, he even talks about teaching his kids about financial literacy early on.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, like the difference between earning money and making money. Really valuable lessons.
I agree. It's never too early to start learning about money.
Now, he talks about his lowest point, the time when he was really struggling with those trading losses. And his wife really stepped up, encouraged him to make a change.
That's so important, having that support system, someone who believes in you, even when you're doubting yourself.
Absolutely. And he says he had this internal battle, right?
Yeah.
This feeling that he was too far gone, like the train had left the station. But he also knew he had to keep going.
Wow. That's powerful. So even when he felt like giving up, there was something inside him that just wouldn't let him quit.
Exactly. And there's this really pivotal moment he shared. He signs up for a food delivery service, right? Thinks maybe this is how I can get back on track.
Okay.
And then he quickly realizes this isn't it. This isn't going to solve the problem. And that's when he recommits to changing his trading approach, like a real wake-up call.
That's a great analogy, right? Sometimes you got to hit that rock bottom to realize what you're doing isn't working and that you need a real change.
For sure. And he talks about how important it is to value those winning trades, to see each win as a victory against the market.
I like that. It's a good mindset shift. Instead of focusing on the losses, celebrate the wins no matter how small.
Right. And he even calls out this thing a lot of people do. They get caught up in these perfect Excel spreadsheets, compounding returns, all that.
Yeah, those theoretical calculations can be so tempting, but they often don't reflect the reality of trading, right? The emotional ups and downs, the unexpected turns.
Exactly. Yeah. So he shares his strategy. He focused on making just one winning trade a day, same strategy, same energy, same time frame for 4 months straight.
Wow, that's discipline.
It is. And, he talks about the challenge of staying disciplined, especially with all the trading information out there these days.
It's overwhelming, right? All the news, the analysis, the opinions. It can be so hard to just stick to your plan.
And he says that's exactly what he did. He shielded himself from the noise. He trusted his plan.
That's a key takeaway, right? You got to trust your own process.
Absolutely. And he talks about this idea of an ultimate ultimatum, that rock bottom moment where you have to make a change. He even hints at his own experience with trading rent money as one of those moments.
Oh, that's got to be a scary place to be. But sometimes it takes that kind of pressure, that feeling of desperation to make a real change.
And he talks about beginner's luck, how some new traders get lucky at first, and then when things get tough, they realize they don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, that initial win can be a dangerous thing. It can give you a false sense of confidence. And then when reality hits, it can be brutal.
Definitely. And, he doesn't shy away from the emotional side of trading. He talks about the lows, about crying, about the struggles.
Yeah, trading can be an emotional roller coaster, that's for sure.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
And he emphasizes the need for patience, for calmness, understanding that the market doesn't care about your feelings, your hopes, your prayers.
Right. You can't will the market to move in your favor. You have to learn to detach emotionally and just focus on the data, the strategy.
And he makes an interesting observation. He says, younger traders often want success right away, but the people he sees really succeeding, they're the ones who already have established careers, financial stability.
That makes sense. They're not relying solely on trading for their livelihood, so they can be more patient, more disciplined.
Exactly. And he gives this really strong warning, right? Don't quit your job. Go all in on trading, especially if you have debt or responsibilities.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. You don't want that kind of pressure hanging over you.
Definitely. Now, Raja, he was already successful in sales when he started trading.
So why did he even bother with trading?
He says it was about scaling, about always improving. Like, he already had a high bar for success, and he wanted to keep pushing it higher.
I see. It's about that continuous growth, that drive to keep learning and achieving more.
He talks about this realization he had, even after achieving significant financial success. His day-to-day life didn't really change all that much.
Interesting. So it's not all about the money then.
He says the real reward is the journey itself, the challenges, the growth, the lessons learned.
That's a great perspective. It's about the process, not just the destination.
Now, he also addresses this question that comes up a lot, especially in certain religious contexts. Is Forex trading permissible?
Yeah, that's a complex issue, especially with concerns about interest and leverage.
Right. And his perspective is if you're trading with education, with a plan, with discipline, it's not gambling. It's a skill.
I see. So it's about the intention, the approach, the mindset.
And he makes a good point. A lot of religious leaders may not fully understand the nuances of Forex.
That's understandable. It's a specialized field, and not everyone has the time or the background to delve into those intricacies.
Now, Raja made this big decision a while back. He moved his family back to Pakistan.
Wow. Why did he do that?
He wanted his kids to connect with their cultural roots, to understand those traditional values.
That's a powerful motivator. Family and culture, those are deep ties.
He talks about this sense of cultural loss he feels in the West. Like, things are different back home. The respect for elders, the social norms, it's not the same.
Yeah, cultural differences can be pretty stark sometimes. It's about finding that balance between adapting to a new culture and preserving your own heritage.
And he talks about his early days in trading, how a lot of the established guys only wanted to help if you bought their course.
Oh yeah, I've seen that too. It's like they're holding back the knowledge unless you pay up.
And that really motivated him to offer free value. He wanted to help people without the strings attached.
That's admirable.
So he starts these Wisdom live streams. At first, it was kind of just for fun, but they blew up because he was giving away so much good stuff.
The power of free value, right? Give, and eventually the returns will come.
He mentions Alex Hormozi, that whole philosophy of giving massive value.
Makes sense. You build trust, you build an audience, and then naturally some people will want more, and that's where you can offer paid services.
Exactly. And, there's this whole thing about people criticizing traders who offer paid education. And he's like, come on, everybody's trying to build multiple income streams.
Yeah, it's a bit hypocritical, right? Especially in the entrepreneurial world. Everyone's trying to diversify to create different revenue streams.
Yeah, it's not like he's hiding his success. He talks about Magic Keys, which is actually a pretty simple tool.
Simple, but effective, I guess.
Super effective. He says it's a multi-million-dollar product. And it just goes to show you don't need to overcomplicate things.
Right. Find a niche, become the best at it, and the money will follow.
He even talks about the importance of building on YouTube, not just rely on Instagram.
Smart move. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. What if a platform changes its rules, its algorithm?
Exactly. Diversify. And, he's not afraid to stir the pot.
Stir the pot. How so?
He's pretty active on Twitter. He likes to ruffle some feathers, create debate.
Ah, the classic engagement strategy. Can be risky, but it definitely gets people talking.
And he even talks about this video he made that went viral just by being a little controversial.
Well, there you go. Sometimes a little bit of controversy can go a long way.
And of course, with that comes the haters.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But he says he doesn't let it bother him. He focuses on the positive feedback, the people who appreciate what he's doing.
Yeah, you can't please everyone, and focusing on the negative just drains your energy. It's better to just tune it out.
He says he's greedy for karma,
Yeah,
do good, give back, and good things will come back to you.
I like that. It's a good philosophy.
And, I've got to talk about SRC,
Oh yeah, SRC. What does that even stand for?
Small Raja Concept.
Small Raja Concept, seriously.
Seriously. He says it started as a joke.
That's hilarious.
I know. Now, when it comes to smart money concepts, SMC, he doesn't hold back.
Oh yeah. What's his take?
He's very skeptical. He says he doesn't see consistent proof that it works.
That's fair. You got to see the results, right?
And he calls out this whole cult-like following around it.
Interesting. I've noticed that too. It's like people get really invested in these concepts, but sometimes it seems more about the belief than the actual results.
He says it's funny how so many influencers preach SMC, but then they end up just using clean charts anyway.
Yeah, that is kind of ironic. Maybe they're just trying to keep up with the trends, whatever's hot at the moment.
He also thinks it's ridiculous that banks would intentionally reveal their strategies to retail traders.
Yeah, that doesn't really make sense, does it? Why would they give away their secrets?
Right. He keeps it simple. Clean charts, candlestick analysis, focusing on the direction of the next 30-minute candle.
Back to basics.
Back to basics. And he even suggests that all the fancy SMC terminology is just marketing hype, to make it seem more complicated than it is.
Yeah, I can see that. Sometimes it's all about packaging and presentation.
So what does he say is the biggest mistake new traders make?
I'm curious. What is it?
Trading too much. Taking way too many trades.
Ah, the classic overtrading trap. You see a setup, you got to jump in, right?
Right. And he emphasizes the importance of simplicity. Don't overcomplicate your strategy. Don't constantly seek validation from others.
Yeah, just focus on what works. Don't get bogged down in all the noise.
And he debunks this myth that you need to be some kind of trading superhero.
Yeah.
He says humans can only make 2 good emotional decisions with money per day.
Interesting. So it's about limiting your trades, focusing on quality over quantity.
Now we've got to talk about the evil eye.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is. And Raja, he has a unique perspective. He says it only exists if you believe in it.
Okay, interesting. So it's a matter of belief, not necessarily some external force.
He says he tries to explain things logically, If something bad happens, there's usually a reason for it.
That's a very rational approach.
He even says, if the evil eye is so powerful, why doesn't it affect super successful people?
Good point. You'd think they'd be the prime targets, right?
Exactly. And he suggests that a lot of negative outcomes are due to lack of discipline or changing your behavior, not some external force.
It's about taking responsibility for your actions.
Throughout all of this, he talks about how important his wife has been, her support, her encouragement, her grounding influence.
That's awesome. It's so important to have that kind of support system, especially when you're taking risks, pursuing unconventional paths.
Absolutely. He even touches on the challenges to traditional family structures in the West, like how things are changing.
Yeah. It's a different world now, but it sounds like he's really grateful for the strong family foundation he has.
Definitely. And finally, he emphasizes the power of routine. He says, if you want to succeed, you need structure. You need discipline.
Routines are key, right? They create consistency, they build good habits.
He even shares his own daily schedule, gym, meals, work, everything planned out.
Wow, it's dedication.
It is. And he says even after traveling, even after a little sleep, he sticks to his routine.
That's impressive. It shows you how much he values that structure, how important it is to his success.
Well, this deep dive into Raja Bank's world has been incredible, right?
Yeah, so many great takeaways. It really makes you think about focus, discipline, mindset.
It does. And I want to leave you with this question. What resonated most with you from Raja's story? What can you apply to your own journey, whether it's in trading or anything else?
Take action. Put these lessons to work.
Exactly. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, comment what you learned, share this video, and turn on post notifications. Thank you for listening to the Forex Shorts podcast. Peace out.